Good morning, everybody. Man, Jason, you really make it sound luxurious.
I'm really good at that.
Thank you so much. So glamorous over here. Today, I'm going to be sharing a follow-up story from one I covered a few months ago. I bet you can't guess where it's coming out of. Yep, NYC. So it's a story that's something we all need to be aware of because it does impact us all at some point, whether you're an employer or an employee. New York really seems to be asking some of the most important questions. Today, my article comes to you from the Times Union News, and the headline reads, "Marijuana regulation of employees needs clarity," report says. The article is quite long, so I'm going to be summarizing for you today. It says, New York passed a law banning employees from testing workers for cannabis use without visual signs of impairment. The result is a lot of uncertainty. A recent report from Cornell University highlights the need for clearer regulations concerning the testing of employees for cannabis use in New York. The state, which was a pioneer in banning the testing of workers without signs of impairment as a part of recreational marijuana legalization, is currently facing significant uncertainties in its labor law. Primary challenge is the absence of reliable tests to determine immediate impairment from cannabis, as existing tests can detect usage for up to 30 days prior. The lack of precise impairment tests raise concerns for both employers and employees. The report recommends changes to the law, including granting employees the right to challenge their termination due to lawful cannabis use and requiring both a positive drug test and evidence-based assessment of impairment for finding employee misconduct. Critics argue that subjective interpretations of impairment could disproportionately affect workers of color. While New York is working to find a balance between workplace safety and individual rights, the absence of an effective impairment test remains a significant challenge for employers and law enforcement. Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes believes that advancement in technology with cannabis industry may lead to a reliable impairment test in the future, which could alleviate these issues. But in the meantime, employers are advised to test employees for cannabis use only when clear signs of impairment are present, to document their observations of impairment and their decisions carefully. Now, you guys, obviously can be very confusing for employees and employers. What do you think that employees and employers should do to manage cannabis use on the job? This is Carmen Sacramento coming at you live from High at 9 News. Happy Monday, y'all.
I mean, Matthew St. Germain, you should just let them let them smoke weed.
I think you should let people smoke weed or not, and if they can't do their job, you just fucking fire them.
Exactly. If they're not, yeah, I'm with you on that. Just let them do their job. If it becomes a problem, get rid of them, fire them, poof, be gone.
Dude, if you come to work and you smell like vodka, you're fired. If you come to work and you smell like weed, you're fucking fired. You know what I mean? If you come to work and you're high as balls and you outwork everybody, then bro, go smoke some weed at lunch. Like, go do your thing. Just don't come back reeking like weed. Don't be a bad example.
Well, there's a problem with smelling like weed.
Can be grounds for termination.
It's hyperbole. I'm just saying, like, be professional at work. Go to work and do your fucking job and don't stick out, and then you'll be fine.
The problem is, though, Matthew,
the business world has key performance indicators, or KPIs. This is the perfect metric upon which to determine whether you have a successful employee or employer, because employers should have KPIs too. Right? You got to keep your employees happy and treat them right, and all of those things. So KPIs, are they meeting them or not? Cannabis use is irrelevant.
And I would say, first responders in certain jobs like high level crane operators and shit should definitely not be on drugs and should have drug testing. There's certain jobs that need people to be sober and focused to do for the benefit of society.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working a service job or a construction job or
if you're a paper pusher, you should be able to smoke weed.
Congressperson, you might as well get high because you're not doing anything effective.
Maybe they'd all do better because they'd let go of all.
I'll do way better. They'd start to grow a conscience, bro. You'd see Mitch McConnell instead of freezing, be like, "Oh, goddamn, I've been a shitty, horrible person my whole life. You guys, I'm sorry."
Oh man.
If it was like a rule that they had to go take a bong hit before they made big decisions.
I thought that was Bill Clinton.
I think you should have to take a 10 strip if you've been elected right before you take your oath.
A 10 strip?
That's 10 hits of LSD, approximately 1,200 plus
that,
micrograms of LSD.
That seems a little excessive right there, Matthew.
It's a lot excessive. That's what they need.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You can't survive a 10 strip. You shouldn't be in charge of me. Sorry.
This whole world has been based on really extreme things. LSD is not that bad compared to some of the other shit.
Dude.
I had this one chick that I worked with, and we were not allowed to consume in my first cannabis job. That was considered a no-no. And she was one of our sales folks. And I was with her. We were on a trip, and we were still gonna, work that day or whatever. And she is just lighting up, waking, baking. And I'm like, what the fuck? And she's like, well, I'm not smoking at work. And I'm like, I can't believe you smoke before you got to speak to all our customers. And she's like, if you didn't smoke before dealing with our fucking customers, you would not want me as your customer sales rep. So I was like, all right, works for me.
What company was this,
to deal with half of our people. None of your damn business. You know who I worked for to begin with.
I do know who you worked for to begin with.
Do the math.
Oh man.
But no, we did not consume. Hey, it didn't bother me that we didn't consume. I didn't care. But I definitely knew that there were times when certain folks let things slip that they weren't supposed to, because they were consuming. There were certain things that they shouldn't be disclosing that they did, which was not a good thing. So I don't have a problem telling people not to consume on company hours. Should they get fired because they get drug tested? No, I don't believe in that shit. But I think you can set the rules and say, if you don't want people consuming during company hours, I think you can get away with that. It's your prerogative. It's your company. If they don't like it, don't work for you.
Exactly.
There is a lot of room for confusion, though, because, even here in California, I've done a lot of consulting for a number of different companies. And sometimes that includes meeting with HR operators who are not used to operating in this industry. It's a culture shock for a human resources officer to come from traditional corporate and then suddenly become an HR officer of a cannabis company, because the rules and the paradigm completely shifts. The value system is completely different. And so I once had a meeting with an HR director of a company here in California who had never worked with a cannabis company before. And one of the employees who was cutting clones somehow managed to cut their hand while they were on the job. And that employee had been seen smoking a vape pen earlier that morning. And so the company issued an entire no cannabis consumption policy statement within the entire business. And that's a real challenge for a number of reasons, partially because when you're a sales rep or a marketing person, a lot of what you do is very social. It's a lot of product sampling, a lot of trialing of different things. And if you can't use it on the job, then there's the question of when can you use it? When are you supposed to be having social relationship time with your customers? And then also, what about those staff who need to medicate during the day for pain, for anxiety, for cancer treatments, or whatever? Companies need to be really crystal clear. I've also seen a lot of companies do this thing where they say no cannabis use on the job, during office hours at all, but then everyone's going out back and toking. That's very confusing.